I was 26 weeks pregnant with twins. Every single day, I lived with the quiet terror that something might go wrong. But I never expected the real fear to come from my own family-in-law. They laughed about one of my babies dying like it was funny. And the man I love? He said nothing. Not a word. Not a defense. Not even a look. That was the moment I realized I'm more alone than I thought. This isn't just a story about pregnancy. It's about betrayal, about silence, about learning that sometimes the people closest to you can be the most dangerous to your peace. But it didn't end how they expected, and by the time I was done, they knew not to joke again. Stay with me, because you need to hear what happened next. And I promise, the way this ends, you won't see it coming. Now, let's dive deeper into what I went through. Watch the whole story till the end, because the truth behind this is way darker and more unexpected than you think. I am currently 26 weeks pregnant with twins. My husband and I have been together for 3 years. We met while serving in the Marine Corps, and we've been through quite a bit together. Over time, I've gotten to know his family pretty well. He has 6 siblings, and they're all very close. I've spent countless weekends, holidays, and dinners with them. I really tried to feel like part of the family. For the most part, no one really showed any negativity about the pregnancy. The only thing that ever came up was his oldest brother, 27M, telling my husband that he was stupid for getting me pregnant. That stung, but I let it go. I chalked it up to immaturity or shock. But then came last night, and I'm still shaken. We were all hanging out, and the topic of my pregnancy came up. Out of nowhere, his brother's girlfriend blurts out, laughing, "Well, at least if one dies, you still have another one." I was stunned. I didn't even know how to respond. I stared at the wall, completely frozen, trying to convince myself I had misheard her. But before I could even gather my thoughts, his eldest brother, the same one who called my husband stupid, chimes in, "Oh, can one of them still be absorbed?" My husband and I both replied no. And then he follows up, completely deadpan, with, "Oh, that sucks." I just stared at him, confused, horrified. I actually asked him, "Why would you say that?" And he just said nothing. No smirk, no laugh, no explanation, just silence. As if I was the weird one for being bothered. There were other jabs that night, 2 jokes about my weight, about skipping my baby shower for more important plans. At some point it just blurred into static, but nothing cut like those 2 comments. Later that night, I broke down crying and ended up fighting with my husband. He didn't defend me, not once, not a single word. He just sat there. And when I told him how hurt I was, he brushed it off with, "That's just how they joke. That's their humor." Look, I get dark humor. I can laugh at inappropriate stuff when the time and place is right. But this wasn't humor. This was cruelty dressed up as a punchline. And when you're 6 months pregnant, barely sleeping, full of anxiety, and constantly worrying about something going wrong, especially with twin-sharing people joke about one of your babies dying, is a nightmare come to life. And the worst part? My husband sees nothing wrong with it. I know he struggles to stand up to his family. He's the second youngest, and they gaslight the hell out of him. If he ever pushes back, they act like he's the one overreacting. And I've tried to be understanding. I really have. But now it's not just about him. It's about our children. And I won't let this become the environment they're born into. For the record, yes, we met in the military. We were both enlisted. I didn't groom him, or wait outside a high school, or anything gross like that, despite what some people love to assume when they see our age difference. He looked older, he acted older, and honestly, I didn't even know he was that young until after we had already connected. It wasn't some Chris Hansen situation, so spare me that angle. I just don't know how to move forward from this. How do I make my husband see that what happened wasn't just a joke, that it mattered, that it hurt more than he can imagine? Because right now, I feel alone, and scared, and angry, and I'm starting to wonder if I'm the only one who sees how messed up this really is. And since that night, I can't shake this heavy, sick feeling in my chest. I'm supposed to be focusing on preparing for motherhood, nesting, bonding, imagining holding both babies in my arms. But instead, all I can think about is that table, those words, and the blank, emotionless face of someone who might one day be called uncle to my children. It makes my skin crawl. I've started to wonder what the future will look like if we just pretend this didn't happen. What happens when my kids are old enough to hear those same kinds of jokes? Will they be told that they're too sensitive? That they don't have a sense of humor? That they are the problem for having feelings? Because I won't raise my children in a houser around people who think empathy is optional. And it's made me realize something painful. This isn't just about last night. This is about every time my husband has sat in silence while his family disrespected me in little ways. Every time I brushed something off for the sake of keeping the peace. Every time I told myself, it's fine, they don't mean it like that. But now it's not just me they're laughing at. It's the little lives growing inside me. And I have a responsibility to protect them emotionally, mentally, spiritually from the moment they exist. I told my husband that. I told him, with tears in my eyes, that if he can't speak up now, before our babies are even born, what hope do we have when they're here? What will he do when they cry because someone teased them? Will he tell them it was just a joke too? I love him. I really do. But love can't survive in silence. Love can't be the only thing holding us together while I'm being torn apart inside. So now I'm at a crossroads. Do I keep trying to explain why this matters, over and over, until maybe one day he hears me? Or do I start building boundary 7, if it means building them alone? I don't know yet. But what I do know is that I will not let anyone treat my babies like a punchline. Not now. Not ever. And here's what no one seems to understand. This pregnancy is the hardest thing I've ever done. Every kick I feel reminds me that 2 little hearts are beating because I keep going, because I haven't given up. Even when I'm exhausted. Even when I cry in the shower at 3 a.m., terrified that something might go wrong, terrified that I'll wake up one morning and it'll all be over. So when someone dares to laugh about death, they're death-like. It's nothing. It doesn't feel like a joke. It feels like a curse. And maybe I kept quiet in that moment because I was too stunned. Maybe I didn't scream because I couldn't find my breath. But don't mistake my silence for weakness. Because now I'm wide awake. I see everything more clearly than I ever have. The way they talk over me. The way they dismiss me. The way they act like I'm just a placeholder in their lives. Someone temporary. Disposable, just a womb. Not a woman. Not someone who bleeds. Who fears. Who fights. But let me tell you something. I may be scared. I may be hormonal. I may even be alone in this moment. But I'm not weak. I'm a mother. And I will burn every goddamn bridge between me and anyone who threatens my children's peace, including his family. Even if it means standing alone at that baby shower. Even if it means raising them without a village. Even if it means looking the man I love in the eye and saying, if you won't protect us, then get out of the way while I do. Because I will not let trauma be their inheritance. Not on my watch. Not for one more second. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a burning throat. I'd cried myself to sleep. Again. My husband was already gone off to the gym or maybe just out of the house, so he wouldn't have to sit in the heaviness he helped create. The bed felt bigger than ever. Too big. Too cold. My hands instinctively moved to my belly, where I could feel one of the babies turning slowly, like they were stretching after their own restless night. And for the first time since the pregnancy began, I didn't feel joy. I felt guilt. Guilt that I'd brought them into a world where death could be a joke at dinner. Guilt that the person I trusted to protect me didn't. Guilt that maybe I'd made the wrong choice, trusting this man, this family, with something so fragile, so sacred. But underneath that guilt, something else began to stir. A slow, rising fury. It started like a whisper. They don't get to treat you this way. Then it grew louder. You are not a joke. Your babies are not a joke. And finally, it became a roar inside me. If no one else is going to fight for you, then you fight like hell. The hours ticked by. I didn't answer calls. I didn't check texts. I just sat, staring out the window, like a soldier waiting for orders. But the order had to come from me now. And when he walked in later that day, tossing his keys on the counter like everything was normal, I didn't even blink. "Hey," he said, cautious, testing the air like a child after a tantrum. "You okay?" I turned to him slowly. Calm. Too calm. "No," I said. "I'm not okay. But I'm going to be. Because I've made a decision." His brow furrowed. "What decision?" I stood up, hands on my belly. My voice didn't shake. My legs didn't buckle. "I'm going to start protecting our children even if I have to protect them from your family. And from you, if it comes to that." He opened his mouth. I raised a hand. "You don't have to say anything. In fact, I want you to listen for once. Really listen. What happened last night? That wasn't okay. That wasn't funny. That was cruelty. And your silence made you complicit." "They didn't mean," he began. "No," I snapped. "You don't get to do that. Not anymore. You don't get to decide what hurts me. You don't get to tell me what a joke is. You either stand beside me and defend this familiar family. I will do it alone. But I swear to God, I will do it." He looked stunned. I could see the gears in his head spinning, his lips parting to defend them, then pausing, then closing. Maybe for the first time, he saw me not just as his wife, but as a mother. One who had already drawn a line in the sand. The next few days were quiet. He barely spoke. He didn't visit his family. I didn't ask him to. Maybe he was ashamed. Maybe he was still deciding who he wanted to be, their little brother, or my partner. And as much as I wanted him to choose me, I'd already come to terms with something. I'm not waiting anymore. Because these babies, they're real. They're growing. They'll be here soon. And they deserve a mother who will walk through fire to keep them safe even if that means walking alone. I've started making lists. Things I'll need for the nursery. Plans for a baby shower without them. Names of doulas, pediatricians, therapists. Emergency contacts who aren't part of his bloodline. I've built entire futures in my head that don't include the people who laughed at death. And each time I add something to the list, I feel a little stronger, a little more certain, a little less afraid. Because maybe I can't control everything. Maybe I'll still cry some nights. But this much I know. No one gets to laugh at my pain and still have access to my peace. Not his brothers. Not their girlfriends. And not my husband. Unless he wakes up too. A few more days passed. Quiet. Tense. Eerie. Quiet. He didn't bring up the fight. I didn't bring up the family. But something had shifted between us like we were living in a house made of glass, both of us waiting for the first crack to spread. I kept myself busy, organizing baby clothes, adjusting my birth plan, journaling all the things I couldn't say out loud. And every time I caught his reflection in the mirror, I saw a man walking a tightrope, trying not to fall, but unwilling to leap to either side. Then, yesterday morning, he said something that made my blood run cold. We were having breakfast, or trying to. I hadn't slept. One of the babies had been pushing up against my ribs all night. He looked at me and said, with his usual soft voice, "So, I've been thinking, maybe we should just keep the peace. Don't bring up what happened. Try to move forward." I stared at him. "You mean act like it didn't happen?" He nodded, smiled weakly. "It's just who they are, you know that." That's when I knew. He wasn't going to change. Not for me. Not for them. Not even for the children growing inside me. That night, I packed a bag. Not everything. Just enough. A few clothes. My prenatal records. The sonogram photos I refused to leave behind. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just walked into the living room, where he was half asleep in front of the television, and stood there until he looked up. "I'm going to my sister's," I said calmly. "I'll be safe. The babies will be safe. That's all you need to know." His face twisted. Confused. Hurt. Defensive. "Wait, what? You're leaving? Just like that?" "No," I said. "Not just like that. This has been coming for a long time. You just didn't notice." He opened his mouth again. Another excuse. Another reason to wait. To shrink. To avoid. But I stopped him with one final line. You weren't there when they joked about my babies dying. So you don't get to be there when they live. And I walked out the door. Not broken. Not bitter. But free.